Good morning, or top of the morning to you. I am Mark Richards. This is Anna Knapp.
Good morning.
We are going to walk you through this service today. This is the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Door County. And here we welcome everybody. Doesn't matter where you're from, what language was your first language, who you love, you're welcome here. This morning we're going to talk about the latest revisions of Article 2, which is the part of the UUA bylaws that defines who we are. And so Anna and I will be walking through that and making some comments about that. Let's see. Normally, we would ask any visitors or newcomers to stand and introduce themselves if you are willing and able. We would appreciate that. We're going to bring a microphone. If you want to stand up and do that, then we'll bring you a microphone so we can hear you. Allison wants to play.
Top of the morning to you. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for allowing me this privilege and pleasure to play for you today. It's so with regret. I'm sorry the Griffin couldn't be here. That is another pride and privilege for me to be associated with them. They're all sick, so they couldn't be here. And so I asked if I might be able to just step in their shoes for a moment. We are fans of the UU at Midsummer's and the Griffin. You've been so hospitable. You host us for so many programs. We have friends, board members alike. So thank you for welcoming me today.
Anybody else? Okay. I also want to acknowledge Allison and the Griffin Quartet. In my hospice work, they have offered to play concerts for our patients over Zoom. So they will play, and we'll have a tablet in front of the person who's in bed, and they will play a live concert for them. It's such a wonderful gift that you offer us. Thank you so much. Okay, on the back of your order of service, there are some announcements. If there are any other announcements concerning the folks here at UUFDC, Anna will bring you the microphone.
Well, I actually would like to start us off. Your UU The Vote Committee is bringing to you tomorrow night at 6 p.m. a replay of the Words Matter program that was put on by the League of Women Voters. So please join us here for that and learn about using inclusive language in your everyday life. Any other announcements?
Lindley's, the birthday cake on the table in the gathering room is for our friend and member, Mona Simpson. Happy birthday, Mona. Also, if there's going to be a talk back or not after that session, we will have again Sunday games. We play board games. And a little treat for that game. Some of you were here for the solstice service on December 17th, which happened to be Dottie Garrett's and my birthday. And we saved, because if you count back 9 months, St. Patrick's Day is our conception date. So we put our faces on the cake in the freezer, and they will be our treat when we play cards.
Hi, just a reminder that Colin Welford is presenting a Colin and Friends concert at 2 o'clock today at Ephraim Moravian Church, as well same concert tomorrow at 2 o'clock p.m. at Ephraim Moravian Church. Thank you.
Okay. So the opening words are the words of our chalice lighting. Do you start or am I starting?
You start.
I'm starting. Okay. Again, we reground ourselves here in our highest values.
Love is the center and foundation of this faith.
Love is the power that holds us together as a community.
As we enter into worship, then, let us open our hearts to the healing power of liberating love.
Because love is not something we receive, but something we practice in community.
Let fall away all that might distract us from the wholehearted practice of love.
Let us be accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love.
As we continue to listen and learn, to act and grow, may each unfold in wholeness, both deeply loving and truly loved.
So please stand as you're willing and able for our opening hymn, which is on the insert or the handout that you got as you came in. Carol will play through the tune one time, and then we will sing. Ours is a simple faith. Life is a short embrace. Heaven is in this place every day. Hope is the ground we till. Make us learn what you will. Thankful for dreams fulfilled every day. There is no hell to fear, no judgment drawing near. Trust that He is you here every day. Life's not a goal or race. It's about heart and faith and living a life of grace every day. Trust is an open hand, making an honest stand, rooted here in the land every day. Live in the mystery, seeking the harmony here between you and me every day. Please remain standing for the unison affirmation and then the doxology. We gather together to seek knowledge and wisdom, to explore freely the vast reaches of mind and spirit, to celebrate within a caring community those truths, ancient and modern, which give meaning and direction to our lives. From all that dwell below the skies, let songs of hope and faith arise. Let peace, goodwill on earth be sung, in every land, by every tongue. So each week we share with each other the joys and fears and joys and concerns of our lives, those joys that bring us pleasure, that bring us excitement, that bring us insight, and those concerns for the people that we love and for the things in our world. And I will bring you the microphone if you have one to share with us.
In the last few weeks, I've been telling you about a dear friend who's facing some very serious health concerns. Well, she got the scans back, and under the circumstances, they were the best possible. So everybody's relieved, and she's facing surgery in a couple of weeks. And again, if you keep her in your hearts and minds, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Vicki Ash. My concern is that I sent good hubby Maury into the food pantry over here at the church to put some items out that we had collected. And when he came home, he said it was really bare. So just a reminder, people are still needing our assistance with food at the food pantry. Which one was it? The one out here, Door of Life? Door of Life.
I just want to express a joy. Our granddaughter, who is how old is she? 17, has sickle cell. I don't know if you know what that disease is. It's when you get a fever or an illness, the blood sickles and clogs in the veins. And it's typical of African Americans, unfortunately. Anyway, she had a series of that and over the past week, and she is now well and home. So I just want, it's a joy.
Dave Vermillion here. I have a concern, but I can end it, I think, on an optimistic note. Ken Falk, many of you here, of course, know our good friend in Puerto Vallarta. I was there with him. I got back about 2 weeks ago, and he stayed to hang out. And anyway, he stumbled on a broken bit of pavement. I think it was probably a curb, and hit his jaw so hard that he broke his jaw, broke his partial plate. And I don't know if he did any tooth damage or not. I don't really know yet. But anyway, he did not want to go to the doctor in Mexico. So it took him like 48 hours to get back to Milwaukee. And he had surgery yesterday at Freighter. And so it's encouraging. I had email from his daughters, and they might even let him out today. But of course, his jaw is going to be wired up. We'll have to just see it. I want to know the real story about what happened, but it's a little early to ask him that. So anyway, I think he's going to be okay. But with that force, if he would have hit his head, it could have been a skull fracture or whatever. So anyway, it's encouraging right now.
Hi, Judy Brudd. We just have a joy. Our granddaughter, who's 16, just turning 17, is on a statewide youth program to give consultation to this state legislature in Minnesota, which is quite an achievement to have been selected for that group. But this past week, she testified at the Education Committee on mental illness programs for youth in the state of Minnesota. And we watched the presentation, and our heart was just so proud of her. It was very exciting.
My grandson in Bismarck, North Dakota, for the second time, presented 2 cases at the North Dakota Supreme Court.
Whoa.
I just want to say that I'm sorry I won't be here next Sunday for what promises to be a wonderful service on Pledge Sunday. My son Adam and I are going to Chicago for a memorial service for the daughter of a dear friend of mine. She has been here. Some of you have met her. Her daughter is exactly Adam's age, and they grew up in the Sunday school together and youth group. She died of breast cancer. So we're very sad.
I just want to thank everybody for being so loving and kind. This is one of the kindest groups of people that I've ever met. And I just want to thank you. You never know what people are going through, and kindness matters. So thank you.
And it is my joy to be helping to put together next Sunday's service. It is a Sunday of celebration for all that we do within and without of our community. So please come and join us. It's going to be a rousing good time. And besides that, we're going to feed you afterwards. So please do join us. Please kind of give those other members and friends who may not be here today a nudge that next Sunday is a very important Sunday for them to show up.
I'm here for another 3 weeks, and I've been keeping myself busy while I take care of dogs by caning and replacing the cane on chairs. If you have any chairs that need mending, I'd be glad to do it. The charge is $25 for materials, and I encourage you to give to the food pantry.
Okay. So following up on Cindy's joy, we turn to the time for gift giving. For all of the work that we do here in our fellowship, all of the work that we do out into the greater community, the ushers will gather your gifts.
Let us now take a moment to quiet our hearts and minds.
So this is something most of you have seen already. This was last year, but it has been updated to its current version. The Article 2 of the UUA bylaws is that part of the bylaws that defines our purposes and principles. And it takes us down this road. This road takes us all the way into the future. Last time I did it in January, so I had to use that Janus slide anyway. So UUA bylaws, because we are a corporation of this Commonwealth of Massachusetts, we must have a purpose for the corporation, and Article 2 is what defines that purpose. You probably can't read this anymore, so I'll read it for you. The final draft. So before, it just basically said the primary purpose was to serve the needs of the congregations. Now it's more specific. It says to assist congregations in their vital ministries, to support and train leaders, both lay and professional, to foster lifelong faith formation and spiritual development, to heal historic injustices, and to support and encourage the creation of new Unitarian Universalist communities, and to advance Unitarian Universalist values around the world. So this is why we come together as an organization, as a Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations. We don't work for them. They work for us. There's a statement on inclusion, talking about particular identities and barriers that certain groups have undertaken, have been subjected to, and to break down those barriers and make an ever widening inclusive circle of solidarity and mutual respect. The inclusion statement is really important here. We want to include people, or before it said we included anybody who showed up. It's become clear that that's probably not good enough. So we want to include people who share our values, who will commit to being in an association of congregation that empowers and enhances everyone's participation, especially those who have been historically marginalized. And there is a statement on freedom of belief, which basically says congregations are independent entities. Congregations can decide for themselves how to gather, what values they're going to live by, what practices they're going to employ, so long as they do not include a creed as a requirement for participation. We'll talk a little bit later about creeds and covenants. So these are the current principles. I'm not going to read through them. I think most of you know what they are. We have replaced the 6 sources with this statement of inspirations and where we get our inspiration. And we draw upon and are inspired by the sacred, the secular, scientific understandings that help us make meaning and live our life and live into our values. We maintain a connection with our religious ancestries, and we look forward into new inspirations. There's that again, okay. So now we're getting into the real meat of the change, which is changing from a listing of 7 principles to an expression of 7 values. Okay, so the values here are independence and pluralism, justice and equity, generosity and transformation, all of which are centered around love. Love is the central core value of our church. And in fact, if you look into it, love is the core value of just about every religion that has had any traction in this world at all. That's why we have religions. I say love is the power that binds us together. So this is the reason we gather in communities, to find that those people that we will come together with and live our lives with. The first one is interdependence. And now it's not going to work. All right. So anyway, we're going to go through this a little bit different. We'll go through them in a different order. So there's justice. Each of these values is defined by a statement of what we understand it to be and a covenant around what we're going to do about it. So when we talk about values, these are the things that drive us in our lives, but covenants are the things that we're going to do. Okay? So justice, we will work to be a diverse, multicultural, beloved communities where all people thrive. Okay. Covenant is to dismantle racism and systemic oppression, support the use of inclusive democratic processes. So this one hasn't changed since last year. Okay. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. So generosity is to cultivate the spirit of gratitude and hope. And so we offer everything that they're going to talk about next week. Our wisdom, our wealth, and our work to bring these things around. Okay. It connects us to one another in relationships of interdependence and mutuality. Transformation. Now, last year, this was presented as evolution, but transformation seems to be a broader and more spiritually acceptable word, I'm going to say. Basically, we just adapt to the changing world. We covenant to collectively transform and grow spiritually and ethically. Openness to change is fundamental to who we are. Pluralism is that we celebrate all sacred beings. We celebrate all ways of expressing the sacred spirit. We covenant to learn from one another in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Equity. Now this one's a little bit complex in its wordiness because there's been a lot of talk about it, but we'll get into that in a minute. Equity, we declare that every person has the right to flourish with inherent dignity and worthiness. Covenant to use our time, wisdom, attention, and money to build and sustain fully accessible and inclusive communities. So this is where we are seeking to make that transformation, if you will, from a society where one group has power over others to a society where all groups have power equitably. Interdependence. This is still in honoring the interdependent of all existence, the interdependent web. And the covenant is to protect earth and all beings from exploitation. And then love is the central force of all of this. It's the enduring force that holds us together. And our covenants are from congregation to congregation. This is the Association of Congregations, and we are covenanting with all the other congregations to maintain a spirit of love. Okay. Where are we at in the timeline? We're coming to the end. June is General Assembly. In June, the final vote will be taken on this as it stands with some possible amendments, and we'll get into those right after this. So June General Assembly is where we're going to take the final vote. It requires a 2/3 majority to change the bylaws. General Assembly this year is all online, so nobody's going to have to travel anywhere. There will be more participation. And I have my own thoughts about doing it online, but there's a certain amount of spontaneity that's going to be lost, I believe, by not being able to run into people in the hallways and sit down at the bar with folks and have a beer or a cup of coffee or a cup of tea. But anyway, so in June, the final vote's going to be taken. We have 2 delegates that we can send. Is that right? Yeah. So we can send 2 delegates. Each of them gets a vote. Amendment 2. So there are 2 amendments around equity that have been proposed. And in order to have an amendment taken up at General Assembly, this time around, it needed the support of at least 15 congregations. So there are 4 amendments that have been proposed and have received the necessary support. This one on equity doesn't change the description of the value. It just adds that equity calls us to listen, understand, respect, and respond to one another. The second one, also on equity, changes the wording of the value itself. So people were uncomfortable with this idea of worthiness. So we declare that every person is inherently worthy, has the right to flourish with dignity, love, and compassion. Moving away from that phraseology of dignity and worth was important to a lot of people because worth implies economic value, and applying economic value to human beings has implications that we're trying to overcome. So those are the 2 amendments on equity. And the next 2 amendments are actually adding new buds to the flower. So this is an amendment to include reason. We search for truth and meaning informed by reason, evidence, and the results of science, motivated by wonder, curiosity, and passion and compassion. We covenant to listen to and respect the views of others and to remain open to new ideas. That's one that will be proposed. The second bud to that flower is proposed to be peace. We dedicate ourselves to peaceful conflict resolution at all levels. We covenant to promote a peaceful world community with liberty and human rights for all. Whenever and wherever possible, we will support nonviolent means to achieve peace. So this is where we're at right now. Each of these amendments will receive a vote during General Assembly, and then the entire Article 2 as amended will be voted. And we are on our way to the garden. So Anna and I are going to offer some thoughts. And I'm going to let you go first.
Thank you. So as Mark and I thought about how to reflect on this, one of the questions that we asked each other was, how will this change impact our Unitarian Universalist faith? And these are my personal thoughts on that, the answer to that question. So the way that I look at these changes to Article 2, I think it can mean everything and it can mean nothing at the same time. So you're probably wondering, how is it possible that it can mean everything and nothing at the same time? So first of all, to think about how it could mean nothing. As we glance around our fellowship, just day to day, we probably won't see a lot of changes. You know, there's not going to be the UUA police that bust down the door and demand that we never use the word principle again. No one's going to come burn our hymnals or any of those kinds of big changes. And really, as we look around and think about how we use that word principle, we often don't even talk about the principles. So day to day, it's possible it could be nothing. However, with this new language, this new way of talking about our faith, it is possible that this could mean everything to us. And here are my thoughts on that. These changes could give us a more simple way of describing who we are in relationship to this world. It could focus our energy as we think about how we serve each other and the world. It also could affirm to the world and to ourselves that we are not based on a creed, that we are responsive to what we see around us, and that we all know that we need a world centered on love right now. As we were first introduced to these Article 2 changes, I know we had a lot of resistance. And as a fellowship, as a congregation, we did send a letter saying that we did not agree with those. And as your delegate at General Assembly last year, I voted no to respect the thoughts of this fellowship. So we really have to think about how we can encounter this change. Because change is never easy, especially when it's been something that we've been operating under for many, many years. Personally, I like to think about change being a gift. And I think about when I was a kid and I would get new toys. Opening up that new doll or toy on Christmas or on my birthday. And one of my favorite ways of playing with my new toys I had this great dollhouse that my grandma had built. And many of the older cousins had it and it got passed down to me. And I like to put my new toys into that dollhouse. So here I had this dollhouse with Barbies and strawberry shortcake dolls, and my brother would bring his G.I. Joe figures over. We had all these little stuffed animals, all these new and old toys that lived and played together in that dollhouse. So I think about that image as I think about bringing these changes into our fellowship. And I say, let's invite those new changes over to play. And so this time, as I again will be your delegate, at least one of your delegates at GA, I hope that I can represent you and vote yes to these changes. So let's play with this idea of love being at the center of what we do. And I'll turn it over to Mark now for his reflections.
So last week, I was in Eau Claire at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Eau Claire for a meeting with their Social Responsibility Committee. Turns out that the sermon that day was by their minister emerita. Her name is Virginia Woolf, Reverend Virginia Woolf, and she was talking about Article 2. So I got her to give me her sermon. So I just want to read this one paragraph because in it she incorporates the 7 principles into these value statements. She says, I like the shift from principles to values, even though I find myself wanting to add others. For example, freedom or forgiveness or reason. On the other hand, I see why the Article 2 Study Commission chose only 7, reflecting that there are 7 principles. I also see that the principles are often the sources of these values. For example, interdependence clearly comes from our 7th principle, respect the interdependent web of existence for which we are a part. Under pluralism, we find we covenant to learn from one another in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning, giving our 4th principle a communal rather than an individualistic flavor. Justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, our 2nd principle. It separates into 3 values: justice, equity, and love. Transformation expands upon the 3rd principle, acceptance of one another and encouragement of spiritual growth in our congregations, calling us to collectively transform and grow spiritually and ethically, and to be open to change, reminding us that we are a living tradition, not one stuck in the past. So when people ask me, what do Unitarians, and they always say Unitarians, they never say Unitarian Universalists. What do Unitarians believe? I tell them, we are a faith that gathers by covenant, not by creed. We care less about what you believe, more about how you're going to be in the world. And that's what our covenants define for us, describe for us. And this is how we agree to be together in the world. Creeds are strange animals, I think. You know, if you go to a Christian church, you often will hear them recite the Apostles' Creed. The Apostles' Creed was written 1,600 years ago, and yet it is still the foundation of how people relate to one another. We are a little bit more amoebic. We will flow and we will change with the environment around us, because at the heart of it all, it is what binds us together. It is the love that binds us together that makes us Unitarian Universalists. It's not different in other faiths. Like I said earlier, almost every faith that I can think of is founded on this concept of love, of coming together, of living together, caring for each other. We are less, I'll brag a little bit. I say Unitarian Universalists are less conditional about who we offer our love to. So as far as what we do with this, you know, I don't like Anna said, I don't think the 7 principles are going to go away. I don't think that poster is going to come down. They're not going to have little pocket cards printed up that they're going to distribute and say, you can have these if you send the other ones back. I don't think any of that's going to happen. This is going to be a transformation, and transformations take time. But I believe that we do have an obligation to the generations ahead of us, coming after us, to stay in touch, to stay flexible, to stay open to the world that is coming at us. Because in the end, it's just a dance. And we have to dance with what we have. So we will have a talk back. We'll give you all an opportunity to express your thoughts and feelings and concerns. I'll just offer this, that Anna and I don't have any special insight. I don't have any special plug into the UUA to find out what people are really thinking, but I tell you what, I can share with you what I've thought, or we can share with you what we've thought over the last year. Now, if you will, arise in body and or spirit. Just sing hymn number 67. We sing now together. We sing now together our song of thanksgiving, rejoicing in goods which the angel hath wrought. For life that unfolds us and helps and heals and holds us and leads beyond the goals which our forebears once sought. We sing of the freedoms which martyrs and heroes won by their labor and sorrow and pain. The oppressed and befriending, our ampler hopes defending, their death becomes a triumph, they died not in vain. We sing of the prophets, the teachers and dreamers, designers, creators, and workers and seers, are those of all nations, our gratitude demanding, their deeds have become a triumph and not in vain. We sing of community now in all making, let every form of demand, religion and crime, with those of all races, all times and means and places, we pledge ourselves in covenant firmly to stand. Please be seated. If you would turn in your hymnals to reading number 638, we will read responsively. If I speak in the tongues of mortals and angels, but do not have love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal.
If I give away all my possessions, and if I hand over my body to be burned, but do not love, I gain nothing.
Love is patient, love is kind, love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth.
It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. Prophecies will come to an end. Tongues will cease. Knowledge will come to an end. We know in part. We prophesy in part. But when the complete comes, the partial will come to an end.
When I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child.
When I became an adult, I put an end to childish ways. Now we see in a mirror, in a riddle.
Then we will see face to face. Now I know in part, then I will know fully.
Now faith, hope, and love abide, these three, and the greatest of these is love.